So if you're thinking about moving to somewhere in the Northwest that has an abundance amount of outdoor recreation, plenty of sunshine, and a small town laid back vibe, you're probably thinking about moving to Bend, Oregon. Today, I'm going to introduce you to another option, Wenatchee, Washington. These two areas have so much in common with a few differences that I think we should put them head to head. Both towns lie just on the east side of the Cascades, where you have mountainous territory to the west and desert to the east. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video because we're going to talk about cost of living, which can really impact your lifestyle. All right, let's jump right into it. Get the scoreboards up. Take a look at what AllTrails has to say about Bend, Oregon. There's over 278 marked hiking trails in the area. That's pretty impressive. Now let's take a look at the Wenatchee area. AllTrails is showing over 381 trails. Now that's a lot of trails. One thing that I would say about some of the hiking trails in the Wenatchee area is they can get pretty populated. Especially when you think about the enchantments, which takes a permitting process that's fairly challenging to get. But because AllTrails is giving them more trails, I'm giving Wenatchee this point. Let's take a look at rock climbing. Take a look at this map of Bend, and we all know Bend has the famous Smith Rock. Now let's take a look at this map of Wenatchee. Plenty of rock climbing around, but a lot of this is concentrated in an area that is fairly hard to get to. So for rock climbing, Bend's getting the point. Now we know when we live in a place with so much sunshine, we've got to have water sports. So let's talk about whitewater rafting. The Wenatchee area has the Wenatchee River that flows from Stevens Pass through Leavenworth down to the Columbia River. Now this has class 4 and 5 rapids and makes for some great whitewater terrain. Bend, Oregon has the Deschutes River that flows through town all the way north to the Columbia as well. But because the water flow in the Deschutes River flows more steadily year-round, whitewater, it's going to Bend. But what if you're into pleasure boating and you want to water ski or deep fish? Well, Wenatchee area has the Columbia River that runs through. This is dammed in several areas, controlling the flow. There's also Lake Roosevelt and Lake Chelan, a 50-mile lake that can take you all the way up to the North Cascades National Park. This river is littered with coves and sandy beaches that you can camp on. So for water motorsports, Wenatchee takes the win. Now, when you talk about Central Oregon and Central Washington, you have to talk about golfing. With all of this sunshine, getting out on the green is a must. Let's take a look at Google Maps and see what it shows us for a number of golf courses in the area. Take a look at Bend. Bend has a really great cluster of multiple golf courses, all in a confined area. Now let's take a look at Wenatchee. Wenatchee proper, there's 3 golf courses within the town's area, but really to get to the majority of them, you gotta do some travel. So for that, I'm giving Bend the golf point. If you're living in the Pacific Northwest, there's a good chance that you're gonna have a winter hobby. And of course, that's gonna be skiing. So let's talk about skiing. Bend, Oregon, there are 2 different ski areas within an hour's drive. You have the main ski area, Mount Bachelor, that is 20 minutes out of town, and Hoodoo, which is just out past Sisters, a little bit more of a ma and pa field. Now, the Wenatchee area, there are 2 different ski areas as well. You have Mission Ridge, which is a ma and pa fabulous ski area 20 minutes outside of town, and then our big resort, Stevens Pass, that is ran by Vail, and that is about an hour outside of town. Now, because Stevens Pass gets so crowded, I'm giving Bend the ski point, although that was a very hard call to make. Now that we've talked a little bit about the outdoor recreation in the area, let's talk about the feel of town a little bit. So Bend, Oregon is very much geared towards tourism. It has grown exponentially over the years. It is the go-to place for the people that live in the Portland area. And because of this, the nightlife and the restaurant scene has really developed. But also because of this, reservations are required everywhere you go, especially in the summer months. So it's gonna have a little bit of a different feel. Now, Wenatchee, it is definitely growing up, and there are a lot more trending businesses coming in, but we don't have the influx of tourism. If you want that, you go 20 minutes west to Leavenworth or 20 minutes north to Chelan. But the Wenatchee proper area, it kind of feels more like a smaller town. You don't need reservations to go places. So no points are given for this round because this is a lifestyle choice. But if you want to talk about lifestyle, let's talk about breweries. Now, Bend is going to get the point for breweries. There's over 30 different breweries within the Bend area. It blows the Wenatchee market out of the water. But on the other side, Wenatchee wins in the wine industry. Did you know that Washington State is the fastest growing wine region in the US? It is the second largest high-end premium wine producer in the US. So we do wine really well. Now that we've kind of talked about the feel, the vibes of the areas, let's talk a little bit about the economics. We need to talk about how close we're located to a metro area, because living in these rural areas, you're going to need a city for some things. Let's say for international travel. So the average commute time from Bend to Portland is about 3 hours and 15 minutes, and you can expect to cross one mountain path to get there. Wenatchee, it is a little bit closer to the Seattle area. It's 2 hours and 35 minutes, but you're going to cross over 2 mountain passes to get there. But because it's closer, this point's going to Wenatchee. I should mention that both of these towns have regional airports. The airport in Bend is located just north in Redmond, and Wenatchee has one right inside town. When talking about economics, we should always talk about growth and population growth. I'm talking about the Deschutes County area is growing at an average of 1.25% a year, which is a pretty fast rate. Chelan County as a whole, it is growing a little bit slower at about a 0.8%. Although during the years of the pandemic between 2020 and 2021, there was a record growth rate of 2.8%. So we know if people can work remotely, they want to be in Central Washington. Now, what would the job markets look like? So Bend, Oregon, their biggest job economy, because they're so tourism driven, is going to be retail, healthcare, and hospitality. So if you make your money slinging those drinks, you're gonna do well in Bend. In the Wenatchee area, it's close, but it is retail, healthcare, and agriculture. And no wonder, because we are the largest apple producer in the world. Talking about economics is one thing, but talking about cost of living is what really impacts you. And this is where it gets really interesting. Let's stack these two up. So in Oregon, the minimum wage is $14.20 an hour. In Washington State, the minimum wage is $16.28 an hour. So you're gonna make, at the bottom line, a little bit more money in Washington State. That gives Wenatchee the point. This is where it gets really interesting, and this is how the state makes their money. Oregon State has an income tax and Washington State does not. So what does this mean? Oregon State, every dollar that you make, before you see that paycheck, they're gonna take between 8 and 10% and they're gonna give it to the state. In Washington, that doesn't happen, but they've gotta make their money up somewhere. So how does Washington State tax individuals? Well, we have a tax on everything that we purchase, with the exception of food. So if I'm buying new clothes, I'm getting taxed. If I'm buying a banana, I'm not getting taxed. If I save my money, I'm not getting taxed, and that's the big kicker. Washington State's tax varies from county. In Chelan County, where Wenatchee resides, that tax is hovering right around 8%. So even if I spent my entire paycheck on things that was not food, I'm still saving a little bit. I'm giving the point to Wenatchee. Speaking of taxes, property taxes can really vary from state to state. And these two states, they're fairly close, and every county, once again, has its own property tax. Bend, Oregon, or Deschutes County, their property tax is at about 0.87% of assessed value. In Chelan County, you are at 1%. So on a $500,000 home, that's a difference of about $600 a year. Oregon State or Deschutes County's property taxes is a smidge lower, so I'm going to give that point to them. Since we talked about property taxes, we need to talk about real estate. Let's talk about home affordability and what the average home price is in both of these areas. Bend, Oregon, the average home price is about $712,000. And I'm gonna tell you, it's tough to even find a home in that price range. Wenatchee, Washington, the average home price is $470,000, and there is an abundance of supply. I'm going to tell you that I toured new construction homes today that was under that price point. Let's take a look at what your money can buy for real estate in these two areas. Now, because homes are so much more affordable in Wenatchee, Washington, of course, they're getting the point. Before we tally up the scores today, I want to thank you for watching this video. If you're thinking about moving to Wenatchee, Washington, make sure to get a hold of us. We're local real estate agents in the area. Our contact information is here and in the description below. And if you're thinking about moving to Bend, Oregon, get a hold of us. We'll get you connected with an awesome agent in that location. Now, Bend, Oregon, they really stacked up the points when it came to outdoor recreation. But Wenatchee, when you talk about cost of living, they started to really get some points. So let's see how they did. Drum roll, please. It looks like Wenatchee won this battle just by a smidge, but you should do your own research. And if you want to know more about living in Wenatchee, make sure to watch this video, The Pros and Cons of Living in Wenatchee. Till next time, have a great day.